Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us tonight. We are going to talk a little bit about transfer options. I know that for some of you on the call this weekend, you did not get the result you were hoping for, but are still super interested in Virginia Tech. So we thank you for coming out. Thank you for your interest. We have the perfect person here tonight to kind of talk about if Virginia Tech still is your goal, your dream. There are many routes to get here. And I know more and more Virginia Tech has been increasing their transfer student population. So we have Jared Delaney with undergraduate admissions. He's actually the director of transfer programs. I personally do have another meeting that I have to go lead in a little while. So Perry Martin, the Pathways director, is here, and I'm gonna turn over the sort of admin duties to him once I hop off. Please do know that SEED is here, whatever the results are. We've supported you so far. We're still very interested in connecting with you, helping you in any way that you can. I know that if you did get a hold this weekend, you've got an email from Pedro Martinez about setting up a one-on-one interview to talk a little bit about your application, maybe what was strong, what wasn't, what was a concern for admission, and kind of what possible next steps might be. We will be continuing the What's Up Wednesday series in the spring. We're going to cover topics like housing, dining, living, learning communities, study abroad, just an introduction to the advising system here. We don't exactly know when we're going to start, what dates those are going to be, but we will, you all have plenty of emails from me, and we'll keep on getting them, but we'll keep you in the loop. That definitely won't be before at least mid-January, probably more like February, but we'll keep you in the loop with all of that as well. And you all also have a link to the folder that contains the recordings for everything that we've done this fall. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Jared.
Well, thank you very much, Kim, and hello, everyone. It's great to be here with you this evening. And as Kim said, to be able to share some opportunities with you as relates to the transfer process. It's an incredibly awesome avenue. I may be a little biased here, but it's an incredibly awesome avenue to get to Virginia Tech. I think it puts you in the driver's seat, allows you to have control of the process a lot more than sometimes the freshman process does. So we'll talk a little bit about those things. But I wanted you to know too, just a little bit about me. So I am the transfer coordinator, lead our transfer team in the Office of Undergraduate Admissions. I've worked with students on the high school side for many cycles as well. So kind of know the ins and outs when we're talking about first year admission versus transfer admission there as well. I serve on our senior leadership team in the Office of Undergraduate Admissions. So hopefully I've learned a thing or two about kind of what it takes to get through on either side. But about me specifically, I am a Virginia Tech graduate and also a first generation college student and graduate in my family, something I'm very proud of. And again, being able to highlight those opportunities for students who come from backgrounds like I did or other underrepresented, underserved backgrounds is a passion of mine as well. So without further ado, I'm going to share my screen. We're going to go through some information, talk through some different resources, some options, some statistics, even looking at the transfer process a little bit more. So everybody should be able to see the screen now and see the nice slides up there. So everything that you need to know, hopefully, is packed on our transfer admissions homepage. So if you're curious about any of the resources that you hear about tonight or want to learn more about how to transfer or how to connect with us for more information or to get assistance with that process, you can do so right there at the transfer admissions homepage, vt.edu/admissions/transfer. So wanted to give you just a quick overview. I know many of you are very familiar with Virginia Tech and have been, but even putting things in context with what you know and as it relates to transfer. So of course, Virginia Tech is located in Blacksburg, Virginia, here in Southwest Virginia. About 37,000 total enrollment, about 30,000 of those undergraduates. We have a huge array of majors, and I know many of you are focusing on engineering, STEM type tracks. Fantastic strengths across all of those categories, but certainly in other areas as well. And when you think about one of the major strengths of an institution like Virginia Tech, it is that academic diversity. And though you guys may be thinking about specific avenues, tracks, majors, et cetera, you will have the opportunity to explore even more. And students do take advantage of double majoring, having minors, or simply pursuing some classes in different areas to kind of expand their horizons and really create a unique educational path to help them reach their goals. In terms of other aspects of student life, this is where Virginia Tech shines through as well. And I know many of you have gotten familiar with or will become familiar with different elements of student life. I always love to highlight that our students are so active and involved with, it actually swells up to over 1,000 clubs and organizations usually during the academic year. So anything you have as a hobby, as an interest, anything you've ever wanted to try, you could certainly do that at Virginia Tech. And getting involved in clubs and organizations is a great way to supplement things on the academic side, maybe even get you some good experience there. Or, do something completely different, right? Change your horizons, meet new friends, share your passion and enjoyment for the things that you love and get others excited about it as well. And I wanted to highlight that, if you were to come through the process and join us as a transfer student, you're not alone. And it's not even, more difficult to build community or get involved or get active. Our transfer students are fully integrated into all aspects of our student life, and actually do a lot of really cool things within the community itself of transfers. Very, very active and engaged. And we'll talk just for a few minutes about some of those transfer specific programs here in a sec. I wanted to highlight again, and just in context and thinking about students at Virginia Tech, right? We have a lot of students, a lot of folks who end up earning Virginia Tech degrees. Ultimately, about 1 in 7 students or thereabout each year who earns a Virginia Tech degree began their journey through the transfer process. So again, not alone. It's a very effective avenue to get to Virginia Tech. There are so many benefits to thinking about kind of that track and that option. And so we're going to talk a little bit more about some of those. I mentioned the transfer programming specifically. So one really, really awesome thing that I've got to witness develop, especially over the last 5 to 6 years, and thanks to some hard work from my colleagues across campus, is the transfer specific programming under the umbrella of the Hokie Transfer Community. So that's an umbrella of their programming. Students who are actively participating in that take part in HTC programming, as they say. And there's so many things that you can get involved with and that support you through your transition and your start as a new transfer student at Virginia Tech. One of those is transfer housing. So a very common question that we get asked is, hey, if I go through the transfer process, would I have the opportunity to live on campus? That's something that is important to me. That's something that I want to have in my college experience. And the answer is yes, absolutely. You can join the Transfer Experience Living Learning community as an incoming transfer. They have about 200 spaces for students in that community, all who share that common thread of having transferred in from another college or university. Pretty neat because they're very active, they're very engaged, they do all kinds of fun events. You see some of the pictures even here featuring members of TE, as we like to say. Not all transfers live on campus by any means. Most transfers, just like other upperclassmen, sophomores, juniors, seniors at Virginia Tech, will live off campus. We have great support resources to help you if you want to or decide that that's the route for you to live off campus like our upperclassmen. We can help connect you with how to manage that process as well. Another great program that transfer students get to take advantage of is a peer mentor program. So it's free for students. It supports you in that transitional semester, usually the first 6 weeks or so, especially. Getting connected with somebody who's been through it, who's been in your shoes, who's transferred in, who's had success, and who's gone on to do great things at Virginia Tech. They can help you with common questions or silly things like, how do I print stuff at the library? Or what about this bus system? How do I figure out these routes and where I can go and to get there? All of that kind of stuff, helping you find your footing at Virginia Tech and get off to a great start. So if you come in as a transfer, you'll get more information about how to participate in that program. There's also an optional class that's specific to transfer students. It's called Unleash Your Hokie Potential. And it really focuses on not welcome to college, kind of rah-rah, et cetera. I mean, if you get through the transfer process, you've been successful in college. So this class focuses on especially how to optimize your time as a transfer student at Virginia Tech, knowing that your timeline is going to be just a little bit different than some of our other students who may be joining us directly out of high school. But it focuses on, how to make good connections with your professors, how to get involved with undergraduate research, how to think about internship opportunities, study abroad, all kinds of things, right, that you might want to take advantage of and that you need to know about early on in your time so you can really optimize what you have left. So again, free, optional, very, very popular class for our incoming transfer students. to take part in. Not a lot of homework or extra stuff that you have to worry about. It's a very, very productive and supportive environment. There's also an honor society, so you can join Tau Sigma if you are making some good grades at Virginia Tech when you transfer in. They would invite you to join that. They do a lot of cool stuff around campus, including hosting many events for the Tau Sigma group, but also the larger transfer community across campus. If you're curious to learn more about these and other programs and kind of find the steps that you would take to potentially join those as you would join us as a transfer student, you can check out our advising website there, the advising website and the transfer student programming. I did want to highlight a little bit more about academics. So I mentioned that briefly when I was giving you the big overview. Again, I know many of you are focused on majors in our College of Engineering. We are top rated in the engineering kind of college overall when you think about those majors and departments. And I'm sure you've talked a lot about the strengths that you can find there in engineering. Again, supplementing things, adding, double majors, minors, etc. While some are easier to do than others, for sure, it is an amazing strength about the academics at Virginia Tech, being able to customize things. And even, of course, in the engineering school and with the engineering programs, the diversity of kind of specializations, of options, different ways to customize ultimately your experience, as well as the degree that you earn. And it doesn't stop at the undergraduate level, of course. We have fantastic master's and PhD level programs in so many different disciplines and so many specializations that continue to build on the knowledge and skills that you gain at the undergraduate level and can help propel you to even more success afterward. I did want to talk a little bit more about, the mechanics of the transfer process and specifically highlight why that opportunity is so effective and certainly how to get the most out of it in terms of transfer planning. So we have an admissions process on the transfer side of things that allows students who have attended any college or university to apply and potentially join us after having laid a strong foundation for their intended major or program at their current institution. Now, not all institutions are created equal, unfortunately, in terms of the kind of access for certain courses, access to certain, programs, as well as kind of the opportunities or benefits that come with transferring credits from those places. And I wanted to highlight a specific strength or kind of a great option when you're thinking about a transfer plan. So here in Virginia, for those of you who are Virginia residents, we have the Virginia Community College System. So this is a group of institutions, community colleges around the state. There's about 24 of them. Different campuses add to that number because some of them have different branches and different locations and things like that. But they're all around the state, so there's probably one that's close by to you. That is the best place for any sort of pre-transfer studies, whether we're talking about engineering or other disciplines, the best place for doing your pre-transfer studies. Sometimes folks, are worried about potential stigmas with the community colleges. Parents, unfortunately, tend to be more in that category, worried about, if a student is attending a community college, that might not look good or, as good as attending another four-year institution and then trying to transfer. And if you're thinking that, I want you to get that out of your head, because the community college route is an incredibly effective and often a much more successful way to get to Virginia Tech, including to get to competitive programs like in the College of Engineering. So the VCCS, Virginia Community College System, provides even guaranteed routes to get to Virginia Tech majors, including in the College of Engineering. And our students take advantage of that, who end up coming through the transfer process with great success. I'm going to show you in a minute some of those success metrics where you can actually see the admissions statistics for students in a couple different groups. So easy to access the right coursework that you need through the Virginia Community College System. We'll talk about kind of building a competitive application and pursuing specific coursework, but there is a guaranteed admission route. So again, we can't say this a lot in college admissions, especially at selective institutions like Virginia Tech, to be able to guarantee you admission, but there's a way to do it. And it's actually surprisingly simple in terms of making that plan. Now you have to do the hard work. The courses, I'm not going to say are simple, right? That you have to learn and complete successfully, but the path itself is very, very open and accessible. So in summary, what you have to do to pursue guaranteed admission to a College of Engineering major through the Virginia Community College System is to pursue an engineering associate degree at your local campus. Now, not every single VCCS campus has an articulated engineering degree, but the vast majority do. And we can obviously help you with connecting with those campuses and opportunities and sorting out anything as needed there. It could be completed online too. So if for some reason accessibility and kind of the campus option isn't there for you because of geography, you would be able to pursue those through shared services via another campus or even fully online with the remote coursework that is offered through the VCCS. So very accessible to find, locate, and pursue that degree. And that would allow you to apply to any engineering major. Now, for computer science, there's a little bit of a wrinkle here. That's actually a great deal of flexibility that we afford. So for computer science, if you were interested in that major at Virginia Tech, you can complete either the engineering associate degree at the VCCS campus or the associate in computer science. That would allow you to meet the requirements and potentially be guaranteed admission to computer science specifically. So you got to locate the degree. You got to make a plan to pursue it. And realistically, you just got to do it with some decent grades. So the threshold when we're thinking about the grades and GPA metrics to be guaranteed admission is a 3.2 plus GPA. So we're talking about a few more A's than B's maybe overall in the scheme of things. You could have something lower than that and some more A's and things. So, you know, a good mix of good grades. Not talking about having to have perfect grades by any means to be able to meet that GPA expectation. And then you apply for admission as you're finishing up that degree. Typically, as you're typically starting your last semester, going through our admissions process to begin with us then at that next entry point, you got to be on track to complete that engineering degree with that GPA and going through our admissions process. And I love reviewing applications for students who meet guaranteed admission criteria because they're very quick and easy to review because you're going to meet those expectations. We're going to see that in your application when you apply and be able to quickly offer you admission into the College of Engineering major that you have selected. That's it. There's really not that many wrinkles or kind of catches or any other things to worry about. And in fact, the guaranteed route to engineering majors is pretty simplified compared to some other programs at Virginia Tech. Happy to obviously field questions about any of this. We should have time at the end, any of the stuff really that we are looking at right now. Students don't have to meet guaranteed admission criteria to be competitive or to be admitted to Virginia Tech, but I wanted to emphasize kind of why that can be a good thing to track towards. So this is actually a view of some of the admission statistics for our most recent cohort that began with us in the summer and fall of 2023. Excuse my M missing out of summer up there. I just realized when I adjusted it from SF to make it a little bit more explained for you, because I use that abbreviation quite frequently with some of my internal presentations. This is the most recent cohort that got started with us this past fall in College of Engineering majors. And I want you to see the orange trend line right there. The bars themselves, the maroon bars show you the number of applications that we received from these different groups. The orange bars show you the number of students that were offered admission, but that offered rate that's captured by that orange trend line shows you a pretty salient point here in that the VCCS, Virginia Community College System, provides the best preparation for admission and then success as well in those College of Engineering majors. So 77% of our applicants from a Virginia Community College System institution who applied to a College of Engineering major last year received an offer of admission. When you look at those students who actually completed the full associate degree, like we were talking about, who may have met the guaranteed criteria to be guaranteed admission to that engineering major of their choice, we're talking about 85% offer rate. So again, if you want to feel empowered to be able to control your route to Virginia Tech and your route to admission to an engineering program, the VCCS is going to be an incredibly accessible way to do that, an incredibly effective way to do that. When you look at the other bar there, these would be students who applied outside of the Virginia Community College System. So they may be applying from other four-year schools, maybe even top-rated engineering schools around the country. We're only talking about below a 50% offer rate for those students. So not to say that you cannot get to Virginia Tech from another school, whether it's a two-year school out of state, which tend to have actually higher offer rates, or a four-year school in and around Virginia or around the country. There is an accessible path to apply, to be a competitive applicant, make a good plan, and be successful in our transfer process. But again, much easier to control a lot of those variables, to make sure you're in the right classes, make sure you're completing the right preparatory degree program, and ultimately have the success in our admissions process. And it just always stuns me to run the data and look at these numbers as we update them every year and see that disparity for students depending on kind of their choice for a pre-transfer institution of study. So again, affirming that the Virginia Community College system is an incredibly effective way to get to the College of Engineering at Virginia Tech. Now, wanted to take a step back and talk a little bit more about kind of broad stroke preparation for thinking about admission through the transfer process, including for folks who might not be attending a Virginia Community College System institution, or who may not end up fully completing an associate degree and want to transfer still over to us. Everybody has a resource that can help them with understanding pre-transfer requirements for entry into their major. Now, these are all covered by that guaranteed route and the engineering degrees, and that's why it's degree focused. If you're not following that path, not completing one of those degrees through the VCCS, then the transfer roadmaps are going to be your friends. So we have this resource, the admissions transfer roadmaps, and they outline pre-transfer requirements for admission into any engineering program or any other major at Virginia Tech. They'll tell you the specifically required classes that you need an equivalent or potential equivalent for, strongly recommended classes, and even recommended classes in a nice 3-tiered system. Now, these will have the Virginia Tech numbers there, and you can cross-reference those numbers with some of our transfer credit resources to look at the equivalents or potential known equivalents at some other schools that you may be attending or credits that you may have. Now, again, the VCCS, it makes it very easy. We know exactly how every single class in the VCCS catalog transfers to Virginia Tech, which means we can put your numbers right there on the roadmap. The specific courses, if you were going to take those classes kind of ad hoc, you would want to pursue to make yourself a competitive applicant for a program in the College of Engineering or any other major at Virginia Tech. One thing I wanted to emphasize here about the transfer process and how it's different from the first year side of things is that we're going to focus on your college journey. We're focusing on your college record. So the classes that you're taking at the college level, the grades that you're making at the college level. Now, if you have some college stuff that you completed in high school, whether it was through dual or concurrent enrollment, or even college credits such as AP exam scores, IB exam scores, or CLEP tests that you've taken, those credits can be applied towards requirements for admission, or looking at those recommendations and help you have that strong transfer application. But we're not going to worry about your high school grades and high school specific courses. So whether we're talking about 9th grade GEM or even 11th grade statistics or whatever it may be, doesn't matter kind of what you made there. And so this can offer students as well kind of a fresh start when they're thinking about admission and the process, because whether high school is good, bad, or ugly, as I like to say for you, you can really take control and affect things in your college journey and in that college preparation. Now, I mentioned credit equivalency resources. So there is a great resource that hosts all of these. It's called our Transfer Guide. It's owned by the University Registrar here at Virginia Tech. And they have tons and tons of great resources available there to help you understand about credits and how they might transfer in. So on the Transfer Guide, you'll find things like the VCCS database, where you can again see how every class through the VCCS transfers to Virginia Tech. Makes it very easy to match up and build strong schedules. Again, whether you're tracking towards engineering or another program. All other schools, the data is going to be in a general transfer equivalency database there, but it isn't exhaustive. We don't know, unfortunately, how every single class transfers from every college or university across America or across the world. So you may or may not find a lot of equivalency data for that school or for particular classes. Again, this can add a wrinkle and add some difficulty when students are trying to transfer from other four-year schools, especially the further you go out of state. And why, again, it makes it very easy when you go through the VCCS route to pick all your classes, to feel really comfortable with how those credits are going to come in and what you'll have left when then you transfer over to Virginia Tech. I mentioned AP, IB, CLEP, that stuff. You also find charts that show what credits you would earn for scores on those exams. Additional credit resources also available there on the Transfer Guide, so be sure to check it out. Now, I wanted to highlight a support resource that we offer to help with this, right? So transfer planning, even though, again, we try to make it fairly straightforward for you, lay out some resources, lay out some options. We understand sometimes you're going to have questions or things will be confusing, and we meet with you to help you with that. You can connect with us in so many different ways, including through our Hokie Corner program. So this allows prospective transfer students to schedule time with us. We do have some in-person Hokie Corner opportunities. I was just actually at one of our partner schools, New River Community College, just down the road earlier today, meeting with a lot of students who had questions about the transfer process, who are making really good plans. We also partner with Virginia Western Community College in Roanoke, Virginia, as well as Northern Virginia Community College up in Northern Virginia, and that there are many campus sites with in-person appointments offered on a frequent basis. We have virtual appointments that are open to everyone. So if geography is a challenge for you, or timing and logistics and things like that, you can schedule a virtual appointment to get some assistance. And through this program, again, that we call Hokie Corner, we meet with prospective transfer students no matter where they are in the process. So if you're just getting started and you got some questions, you're already in the thick of it doing it, and you got some questions, or applying and kind of need some help with that, or even on the other side of an admissions decision, we will meet with you and talk about next steps, maybe what happened and how to move forward. So again, very accessible way to get some help and get more in-depth assistance with the transfer planning process. You can schedule one of those appointments via our website. Wanted to highlight transfer deadlines because in the event that you end up going through our transfer process at some point in the future, you want to understand that the deadlines can be different and are different than the first-year freshman process. In fact, the transfer process tends to be staggered just a little bit later when we're talking about that summer and fall entry point. We do have a couple different entry points for transfer students in these two broad categories that you see here. So we have our spring transfer process. We do allow students to begin with us in the middle of the academic year. We are moving right along through that process this cycle. We had our applicants apply by October 1st. They were notified in early November, and right now many of them are accepting their offers and moving forward with the onboarding process to get started with us in January, and they have until December 1 to complete that and accept their offer. Now, we bring in the spring admission is relatively new for us, in all honesty. This is about the fourth cycle, really, overall, we've done it. Probably the third cycle that we've done it in earnest with a lot of capacity to accept spring students. And we welcomed about 300 students in our spring cohort last year. We expect to welcome about 300 in the spring cohort this year, a sizable portion. I don't have it off the top of my head. I think it's about a third or maybe even more of that we expect to be for College of Engineering majors. So again, College of Engineering also very accessible through the spring transfer process in most cases. The majority of our transfers, however, come in through the summer and fall process. I group that together just because it's the same deadlines, the same chances, the same capacities. The main difference really is just when you start your classes at Virginia Tech. Are you going to get started in the summer or wait like most folks and begin in the fall? About 1,100 students came through or joined us through the summer and fall cohort last year, with about 100 of those, or maybe even less than that, actually starting in summer. So the overwhelming majority begin their classes in the fall. But you see a March 1 deadline there. Students are all notified together in mid-April, so we aren't on a rolling basis. There's not kind of you have a better chance of applying earlier rather than later, but we will talk about why you might want to apply earlier than that March 1 deadline, especially as it relates to scholarships. So whether you're a domestic or international student, these deadlines will be the same. Now, for those of you who might be thinking about the transfer process and could be a year or two out, just make sure that you check back with us, because deadlines can change, other little pieces of the process and resources can change. Always connect back with us to see kind of the latest and make sure that you are creating an effective plan. Now, wanted to say just a few words about the actual application process for transfers. It is very similar to our first year process, but there are a few differences. Where things are very similar is that we use the Common App as the platform. So the Common App or Common Application is a platform that hundreds of colleges or universities use around the country and around the world. We use it for all of our first year and transfer applications as well. When you go to make a Common App account, however, it will ask you if you're a first year or a transfer applicant. And that's an important distinction because Common App uses two platforms, kind of a nice fork in the road under their system for their transfer specific stuff and their first year stuff. So just be aware of that when you go potentially to make an account, but the application is submitted through Common App for transfers. Now, most transfers also are required to submit a separate self-reported academic record, or SRAR. That's what we call it. Now, most colleges and universities use transcripts in the admissions review process after you submit an application to view your academic information. Virginia Tech is not like most colleges in that regard, because most students will not have transcripts reviewed for during the admissions review process. Instead, you do this self-reported academic record that for transfers focuses on that college record we were talking about. So we'll see all of the college credit-bearing courses that you've ever taken, all of the grades that you have made, as well as everything you're finishing up. Because I mentioned in most cases, students, when they apply, are finishing up that last semester. They're coming in the fall. Maybe they have an extra summer class or two they're finishing up. You'll report that to us so we can see and give you credit for all the stuff that you'll have with us by the time that you start. Now, major availability can vary by those intended terms of entry. You can check out which majors are available for which entry term in the current cycle via our website. In most cases, all College of Engineering majors, with the exception of aerospace engineering and ocean engineering, have been available for every entry point over the last several cycles. Now, here is a look at the cost of attending Virginia Tech as it currently stands. So tuition, fees, room and board for in-state and out-of-state students. This is obviously predicated on a lot of kind of estimations here. So when you look at these cost of attendance, make sure you're kind of thinking about what Virginia Tech would actually potentially bill you for and what could be a variable cost depending on some choices that you make. Your tuition and fees are pretty much that, right? The stuff that Virginia Tech is going to be billing you for. Your room and board costs could be variable. Depends on, are you living on campus as a transfer student? Do you have an on-campus meal plan, which would be required in that case? Are you living off campus, but then have an on-campus meal plan because we have the top rated food in the country? We have incredible food. And I always digress and tell folks that was one of my favorite parts about being a student at Virginia Tech is the food. So it is that good. And I hope you have a chance to try it. But you may have that on-campus meal plan, or you might cook for yourself, or kind of, make your way there. Same thing when you're talking about books, supplies, transportation, etc., can all be variable. You can find this, other breakdowns of fees and different structures on our Office of Scholarships and Financial Aids website. They have a lot of great resources to help you understand cost, as well as what you can do to optimize kind of things to get the most money to support your education. And I did want to say a few words about that, even though, again, many of you will be thinking about the transfer process, obviously looking forward for maybe a future cycle and maybe even several years down the line. But I wanted to highlight that as we stand now, there is an incentive for applying for transfer admission early. You saw that March 1st deadline there. We really recommend actually getting your Common App submitted by late December, early January, which allows you to move forward in our scholarship consideration process that has some late January deadlines. January 22nd is the deadline for our general scholarship application, and that contains most sources of scholarships that students can be reviewed and considered for. So you want to get your application submitted in time to move forward with that. Probably got to get the application submitted by January 10th or 15th to give yourself time, give the application time to process, give yourself time to complete the scholarship application. The other wrinkle is that you want to get a FAFSA on file with Virginia Tech. The free application for federal student aid, or FAFSA, is something that you may have completed or may have heard about, but good information on our Scholarships and Financial Aids website for what it is, how to complete it. And there are some wrinkles with it this year. For those of you who will be going through the process or are going through the process and are looking to do the FAFSA, that will be released at some point here in the next month. It has to be a month or so legally as the government updates and hopefully streamlines the FAFSA process. So that's something that we encourage students to get done as quickly as possible once the new FAFSA is released, and certainly by some priority deadlines, certainly by March 1, but even by that earlier January 22nd deadline, if possible. And that will help students receive the fullest consideration for scholarships and financial aid through the transfer process. Again, grain of salt here. I'd love to see some improvements or some things shift to be more accessible, to extend kind of that window, to allow students who apply a little bit later on to be considered for as many scholarships as well. But this is how things are as we stand today. And wrapping us up a little bit, I just wanted to highlight a few things about kind of Virginia Tech in terms of success metrics. I'm sure you've heard a lot of these kind of things. We give a lot of credit to our Smith Career Center. They do a wonderful job of helping students with aspects of professional development, whether you're preparing for internships or practicing your interview skills, building a resume, whatever it may be. But also would give a lot of credit to the College of Engineering for certainly supporting their students through those processes. They do wonderful, especially in the context of all the colleges at Virginia Tech, in extending those opportunities, connecting you with them, helping you understand, options like how to co-op, how to get involved, how to do undergraduate research, et cetera. You're going to have so many opportunities to take advantage of there. And it all translates to success. Our students go on to be incredibly successful overall when they graduate from Virginia Tech, no matter what that next chapter looks like for them. And I like to highlight that you see here retention rate. 91% retention rate. When you look at transfer retention specifically, it tends to be 92, 93% each year. And I want you to think about that, because the national average is somewhere around in the 70s, I believe, low 70s, I think. That many millions of students end up going to a college or university that they feel like is a good fit, that they're really excited about, they got admitted to, and then they show up and it isn't that good fit. Something's wrong. They don't like their major. They don't like the geography. They're not happy with the student life. They're not able to meet friends, whatever it may be. It could be too expensive, all these different factors. And they end up dropping out, in some cases failing out, having to transfer to another institution. And I want to emphasize that students transfer into Virginia Tech a lot, as we've talked about, but not that many students transfer out of Virginia Tech. And it's not because it's a one-size-fits-all kind of box that we found, this magical formula, right, that all of you here and certainly all students who are going to apply to Virginia Tech are looking for. And we just got that magic college formula. I hope that the takeaway from this presentation and everything that you're learning about Virginia Tech is in fact quite the opposite, that Virginia Tech's a fully customizable place. You're in the driver's seat to customize your academics, your student life, to invent and reinvent yourself, to expand your horizons and try new things, and continue to grow and develop the passions that you have now. And ultimately, that flexibility, that opportunity to grow and develop helps students find those spaces and places where they can be happy. And again, as a first-generation college student and graduate of Virginia Tech, I can tell you how important that is ultimately, to find those spaces that you can be happy, because that's going to allow you to be successful. And that's why we have such successful students, and by all kinds of other metrics, the happiest and most satisfied students at the undergraduate level in the entire country. So just a quick plug there in terms of thinking about the overall kind of picture of Virginia Tech. And I want to emphasize, while many of the resources are available here on the admissions transfer website, we are here to help you, whether you schedule an appointment with us through Hokie Corner or you reach out with quick questions. You can always stay up to date with the latest on social media. You can see all the account information there. We also have a podcast if you're interested in following along there. But feel free to reach out. Feel free to ask questions. We're happy to help you through the process. So that's what I've got for you. And I'm happy to stop there. And we've got some time for any questions. So whether you want to kind of unmute and ask or type them in the chat, I'd be happy to take questions now.
I have a question.
Yes, please.
Okay. We were very lucky in that our son is going to be fall transfer straight in as a first year. I'm watching this because he is currently enrolled through a high school program that he's going to be coming in with a lot of classes. And I know this is for people that have gone to college to transfer in, but he's taking college classes. And I was trying to see, will the websites that you gave be applicable for him to see if what he's taking, how it will transfer in, if it will transfer in?
Yeah, great question. Thanks for asking. Yeah, so specifically, what's great about the transfer equivalency resources is they're applicable to everybody. So not just students coming in through the transfer process, but as we know, our students going through our first year process are often bringing in different sources of college credit, whether through, AP or IB exam scores, or certainly through dual enrolled work, maybe sometimes with the Virginia Community College, maybe with another institution. So yes, absolutely. The transfer credit is kind of the same, right, in terms of the credit itself. So the same classes at the same institutions taught, kind of under the high school umbrella versus the college umbrella. are going to transfer in the same way. And so you can see if those are available. Again, the full VCCS catalog is available. So if they're dual enrolled through the VCCS, you can see exactly how those match up with courses at Virginia Tech, AP exam scores, that kind of thing, all right there. And then if it's dual enrolled or kind of a partnership with another institution, another four-year school especially, it may or may not be in there in terms of the equivalency database. It's going to depend on how many students, or if any students, have really brought those credits to be evaluated just yet. And it's a great kind of segue to mention a point that I didn't highlight. In the database, if you don't see your classes for an institution, it doesn't mean that the credits won't transfer. It just means we don't know how they'll transfer yet. And so those will have to be formally evaluated. And that process tends to play out actually after the admissions process. So if we do run into scenarios where we're thinking about ambiguity with credits, we in admissions try to give the benefit of the doubt there when applicants select strong classes that have a very high likelihood of transferring, even if we can't guarantee that credit's going to match up exactly, at least that early on in the admissions process. So thanks for that great question. I hope that answers it.
It does. He's taking his through the local community college. So hopefully it'll be be able to figure it all out. So thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Other questions out there? I think we might have had one in the chat. Let me see. Yeah, so Lorraine's asked if do you have to transfer to Virginia Tech after 2 years at a community college, or can you transfer in before then? So thanks for the question, Lorraine. I'm not sure when you popped in, because you noted you joined just a little bit late, but you may have seen our actual process here. Let me get back a slide or two. Sorry, my controls are being strange with me right now, so I gotta. All right, let me click on here. Sorry. There we go. We talked about guaranteed admission, Lorraine. And so for guaranteed admission through the Virginia Community College system, it would require students to complete the full associate degree. Now, that is often billed as kind of a 2-year plan. But again, students sometimes have some stuff they've already started on the high school side that shave off some time. They're able to knock it out in a year and a half, something like that. For other students, they'll take it and take a few classes here and there. It may take them longer than 2 years, and that's completely okay as well. But that would be kind of the best route and the guaranteed route, right, to meet expectations through the Virginia Community College system with one of those transfer-focused engineering associate degrees. We do have a good number of students, though, who ultimately transfer prior to completing that full associate degree. And that's where a resource like the transfer roadmaps come in. So we mentioned that it will help kind of pick some of those classes out that you need to prioritize to be able to have a competitive schedule to meet and exceed minimum admissions requirements for the major, and ultimately move forward in kind of that competitive process. And let's see, do we have another one out there in the chat? Yeah, it looks like we do. Would you still be able to do accelerated degree programs transferring into Virginia Tech, or would you just bring those credits in? So if we're talking about accelerated graduate programs, you should be able to pursue those opportunities in the same way that other students at Virginia Tech are able to do so. So shouldn't be kind of any limitations there, at least not that I'm aware of. Could be something program specific. I don't have enough space in my brain, unfortunately, for all the graduate information. We work in undergraduate admissions, but we can definitely get you connected with other folks who can help you understand those opportunities. And I know some of the people that you are working with in the programs have a lot more expertise in that area. Other things out there for folks. I think we got the ones in the chat so far. You're very welcome, both of you, Lorraine and Miriam.
I got a question.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
So FAFSA this year is a little bit different. It is December 1st, right?
Well, maybe. So I think everyone's keen to know when that's going to be released. Hopefully it's going to be as early as possible. They have to have it done and out legally by the 31st. And I've been making the joke, whether it's in good taste or not, that I think the government's going to be staying up on New Year's Eve doing a little bit different stuff than most of the rest of us in terms of ringing in the new year. So we'll see when that's released. But as it's it's released, if you're going through any college admissions process this cycle, right, whether it's Virginia Tech or somewhere else, make sure if that institution needs you to do the FAFSA that you complete that and you meet those expectations. But yeah, it will be a little bit different this year. And obviously the folks in our Office of Scholarships and Financial Aid are ready for it, and they can help answer questions that you might have, you or your family, kind of about that process and timeline.
Okay. Do you know of any other like complications that might arise with that? Like you said that we should apply early, right? Like you said late December, early January.
Yeah, so again, this would be just for students going through our transfer process this cycle. So if that would apply to you, then yeah, this is going to kind of, be a thing to have to worry about this cycle. It shouldn't impact things there though, because even, when we're thinking about for transfers, it's actually still well within kind of some of those windows. It just usually kind of creates a more narrow window to complete it, given that the FAFSA typically opens in October. And so people can begin that and start to get things together. There are some wrinkles, I think, with the FAFSA, given the format changes that are going to specifically affect students, maybe with split households. Given that certain things I think are going to have multiple parents sign off on, regardless of that situation. So there are going to be some, I think, logistic changes, but again, not the expert there, so don't want to overstep. I would encourage you to use the resources we have on our website, the Office of Scholarships and Financial Aid, or certainly connect with those folks should you have any individualized or even bigger picture questions about navigating the process.
Another thing, sorry. You mentioned how like we should submit it earlier than like January 22nd because like we have to fill out some other thing. You were talking about like the general scholarship. Is that like?
Yeah, as you see here, the general scholarship application has a January 22nd deadline, and that's the same deadline for everybody. So our prospective first-year students, that's their deadline. Our returning Virginia Tech students, so whether you're a freshman, sophomore, junior, senior at Virginia Tech, I guess seniors probably don't do it, but below that, they're applying for scholarships for that subsequent academic year by that deadline and through the same process. The wrinkle and why it's a big deal for transfers and having to apply early is the first year freshman process. All of our deadlines are well before that. So the final deadline that we have right now for first year admission is January 15th. If you apply by January 15th, you'll have that time, even though it doesn't give you much time, and you probably still won't want to wait until the deadline day. The final submission deadline for the first year application is January 15th. So everybody's going to have that chance. Unfortunately, transfers, at least the way things are in the current cycle, until something were to change, they can apply until after that deadline. So it's an option, and we want you to take advantage, and most people want to take advantage of that option of applying early to be able to have the fullest consideration for scholarships and financial aid when they take a couple of those extra steps by those applicable deadlines.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Great questions. Appreciate you asking. What else we got out there? Anybody else have any lingering questions, anything that they're curious about with what I shared?
Jared, we did have a couple more.
Did some more pop in the chat?
Yes.
Thank you. Let me look at those. Yeah, so our transfer, in terms of thinking about the transfer process, the best way to connect with us is through the Hokie Corner program. So let me get back to that slide. It talks about that. All right, there we go. So you can get to it here. I can make sure that we throw the link in the chat as well to get to Hokie Corner. Let me do that really quick, actually. I had the page up. I'm actually just going to throw the link to the main transfer page because one of the big panels here is schedule a transfer appointment, and that takes you to the link that is on your screen right now and get you to so many more resources. So it's kind of a nice thing for everybody just to have as a quick access. So there in the chat is the transfer admissions homepage. And again, from one of the main panels that you'll see, just scrolling down very slightly on the page, you can see the schedule a transfer appointment panel. Click on that and potentially move forward there. Let's see what else we got. I think there was another one or two in there. Yeah, Bright Point Community College, one of the colleges you accept the transfer. Absolutely. So we have a lot of students who transfer from Bright Point. They do also have the articulated engineering associate degree and a great computer science degree as well that will apply for thinking about guaranteed admission there at Bright Point. We get a lot of students from Bright Point coming into engineering majors as well as, again, other programs. Miriam's also asked, is there a maximum number of credits you can bring transferring into Virginia Tech? Yes, there is. The formula is a little bit complicated, so it's about how in the weeds you want to get with it. But basically, the summary is you can transfer half of your Virginia Tech degree from a 2-year school, like a community college. So 50% of that degree, and for most degrees at Virginia Tech, that ends up being about 60 to 64 credits. So that's what you can bring in. If you're going through the Virginia Community College system, though, you can kind of get more bang for your buck with the full associate degree because of the way some credits come in, the way things are kind of that work with general education and kind of having some of those requirements satisfied as a block. So it's kind of 60 to 64 with an asterisk in terms of still being able to get more out of it there. And then credits from other sources could stack on top of that. So if you had some credits maybe from another 4-year school, those could potentially stack on top. If you have credits from AP, IB, CLEP, or some of those other sources, those would also be able to stack on top. Hypothetically, it's possible for someone to bring in up to 75% of their Virginia Tech degree, which ends up being about 90 credits, but I'll tell you that usually doesn't happen. That most students, when they're kind of having everything, kind of a full pre-transfer schedule, full associate degree, they end up transferring somewhere around 60 to 70 credits to Virginia Tech. Great question though, Miriam. Other things out there? Anything at all?
Just a note, as you may have noticed, we are recording the session. So again, we'll make it available. Again, if you need to go back to the recording, anything that you may have missed. And again, we in SEED are glad to connect you to undergraduate admissions. We know there is a lot of things moving fast right now, so we certainly are glad to try to help you navigate everything that's happening.
All right, I don't see anything else in the chat unless I've missed something there. And I always do the auction call. Going once, going. Oh, see, there it is. That's why we do it. Do you have another question?
Yeah. So is there like more information about the general scholarship? So like where and how does this work? Like,
Yeah, so we can definitely get you to the financial aid website. And specifically they have a general scholarship page here. So let me do a little quick thing here. Scholarships. All right, so this page that I'm going to throw in the chat, I think is a great resource for thinking about those scholarship options. So let me get that chat box up. Apologies. There we go. That's a great link to get you to a lot of the stuff really, really quickly as it relates to the scholarship process, kind of more generally at Virginia Tech.
Okay. And the general scholarship, you might not know this because I keep asking stuff about the scholarship and stuff, but like,
that's all right.
Would this be done during the window of like already having applied and then the deadline, which is January 22nd?
Yeah. So, and again, and in case that's lost, and thanks for highlighting, because I didn't say this explicitly, and that's something to be aware of as you're thinking about any college admissions process is how scholarships work, how that timeline works. At Virginia Tech, you apply for admission, and then you apply for scholarships usually before you hear an admissions decision. Some folks, as they're part of special programs, may already have an admissions decision, but the vast majority of applicants, first year transfer, are applying for scholarships before they hear an admissions decision back. So you want to make sure that you do those things kind of after you've submitted your application, you've got your credentials set up. That's typically when you can move forward within the scholarship process, freshman or transfer.
But FAFSA is different though, right?
Again, so in what regard? What do you mean?
Like FAFSA you can do before you apply?
Yeah, you can. Yeah, absolutely. Good point. So you can do a FAFSA, assuming that it's open. In a normal circumstances, get a FAFSA kind of updated. The thing with the FAFSA to be careful with is just to make sure that any school that you're applying to is listed in the FAFSA. You have a schools list that you can add. You can add lots of schools in there. Make sure that any school that you're applying to is listed. And transfer students, unfortunately, make the mistake sometimes of forgetting to add the new school that they want to go to. They'll have a FAFSA that they've done for a year or two at their one college with that listed, and then they apply to transfer, but they forget to add those other schools they might transfer into, and those schools wouldn't have access to the FAFSA information. So by completing the FAFSA and adding Virginia Tech in the schools list, whether you're going through the first year transfer side, then when you apply for admission, that should all match up. But a lot of students will do it in the reverse. Of course, they'll do the application, then they'll complete the FAFSA, complete the general scholarship stuff, and move forward.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any final questions out there? All right. Well, I'm happy to give you a few minutes back of your evening, but thank you so much for allowing me to come and talk to you about the transfer process. As Kim and Perry said, if you have any questions, feel free to connect with our team, whether it's Pedro Baez Martinez, who I know that you all have many of you who have met, who works through some of our special programming, whether it's me or another member of our transfer team or any of our other undergraduate admission staff. We're happy to help you navigate the process and answer any questions that we can. And if we can't answer them, we try to connect you with other folks who can. So thanks so much.
Jared, we thank you. Appreciate you spending time with us. And again, as Kim mentioned, we do this, our What's Up Wednesdays is a regular occurrence. This is our last one for the fall, but we'll fire up again in the spring. So again, do appreciate your time, and we'll certainly connect people to you as they have questions. Thank you all again, and have a good evening. And again, thank you for joining us, and keep posted for when we start our spring version of What's Up Wednesdays. We'll get into more topics related to preparing for college and some of the other aspects of college beyond the admissions process and financial aid processes, which is what's hot right now. So we'll get more into housing. Carlos, I see where the recording is posted. What we will do is send out an email with the link to it to everyone that's been getting information from Dr. Lester. Carlos, what you can do is if you send an email, I'll put in the chat real quick. You can request to be getting emails, and give me 1 second to pull my chat up here. And I'll give you probably the easiest thing. One of the addresses that I check is our Pathways account. So if you go to pathways@vt.edu and want to get information that gets to our Pathways for Future Engineers program, and I'll be glad to be sure you're getting all the information we're sending out over email. Just send me a note to add you to the list. Well, as you can hear, the clock's chiming at 7 in the background. So if there are no further questions, hope you all have a good rest of the evening and a good rest of the year. Take care.